Welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Ben Knegendorf. He is the co-founder of Dropship Breakthru, and Ben is also the host of the Dropship podcast. He and his co-founder, John, teach you how to start your first online business in the next 30 days. Sounds like an exciting hook. So, Ben, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So, dropshipping, like how do you explain it to someone who's never heard of it or needs to get on the same page as you as far as the exact definition and make it fun and exciting? Dropshipping, what is it? Why should we care about it?
So it's literally how like half the internet works. So dropshipping is simply a method of fulfillment. So if you go to Ben's eCommerce store.com and you order something from me, I'm going to take the order. I'm going to go to the brand from which you just purchased. They're going to ship it to you on my behalf. That is drop shipping. They're going to drop ship it to you on my behalf with my store's label on it. So you're none the wiser. The box shows up. You just assume it came from my store, but in effect, it was drop shipped to me. And again, probably half the internet works this way. The most famous case is that's how Wayfair began.
And that's how a lot of like Amazon began, right? Like where you place an order here and you don't even know it. You're not even none the wiser. And then it just shows up. And so if someone out there is saying, okay, this drop shipping thing, it sounds cool. It sounds exciting, but I might have my own kind of self-doubt or my own hesitations or, all this negativity about why it might not work or why I had a friend who tried it before and failed, all those things. It helps us to hear the story from a guy like you who blazed the trail, who made it happen. So what is you and your story and your background as far as this whole fun drop shipping technique?
Yeah, first thing I would say is like if you've heard of this before or you've had a friend try it, it's likely from some guy they saw on TikTok standing next to their rented Lambo telling you to drop ship some things from China. I bought them before too. Here's a little monocle I bought on TikTok just to see the process. It showed up 45 days later in a heavily taped box. It doesn't actually work. Terrible user experience. Where I began was something called high ticket drop shipping, which is simply selling things that are high ticket, right? We try to teach above $1,000 and things people are already searching for rather than having to interrupt them in their news feed and hope they come buy your products. So you mentioned my story. I was working at a Walmart distribution center, driving forklift, throwing boxes, driving yard truck, and the particular distribution center I was working at was only about 15 years old, 10 or 15 years old. So first shift was the holy grail there. If you could get to first shift, it would take years, but that's where you wanted to be. You work 4 10s, you work 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 4 to 2 p.m. and that was the holy grail. And I remember in 2015 or 2014 rather, I made it there. And I remember the very first day I walked in and just everyone was dead inside. Like no one looked like they wanted to be there. And I thought at 29, I'm like, oh, this is it. I've made it. I've met the holy grail in this building, try to be a manager or a coach as they called it. And I took a note on my phone that just said, I got to get out of here. I got to start formulating a plan to leave this place. This is not where I want to spend the rest of my life. And so that was the day I made the decision. I started, looking into things. I stumbled upon a podcast just like this, talking about high ticket drop shipping. And that's where my journey started.
And there's like a handful of really cool nuggets in there. One is in the middle of there, you said you took out your phone and you typed a note. And I found that's like such a simple suggestion and thing to tell someone to do, but like it helps so much, right? If there's a goal you want to hit to, or if there's some thought that you're having and it keeps like rattling around your head and you keep thinking it, get it down so that way you can revisit it. Something else you mentioned was this whole idea of don't try to convince someone or change the direction. Like don't try to interrupt their newsfeed. If someone's already looking for these kinds of answers, or someone is already listening to podcasts such as this one, then just get in front of what they're already have coming along in their way. So it's cool so far right off the bat to get some of those kind of marketing nuggets from you. And so you went from that to this thing called drop shipping. So what were the struggles like as far as you building that business? Because sometimes you hear some of these stories about how like you get a flood of orders, but you only get like your super small margin, or there's the worry that in the process of you being this third party middleman, that there'll be like a customer experience problem, kind of like that monocle there that took 45 minutes or 45 days to get to you. And then now you're kind of caught in the middle because there's the angry customer and then there's the supplier that doesn't care. So there's all these kind of possible drama in front of us. So what was your story like building this dropshipping business up?
Yeah, I'm going to move a little bit away from the story because I just want to solve all those questions you just asked in that little monologue there, right? So first off, you're right. We don't sell little trinkets shipped from China. We sell brands you actually know. I used to own the 3dprinterguy.com, pelletgrillpros.com, standingdestination.com, selling brands you've already heard of. People are already searching on Google. And so rather than having to create demand in a social media news feed, I'm capturing demand. The demand already exists for these products. I'm simply getting in front of them, answering the questions they have around the product, solving their problem, and taking the sale. And then to your point of all the things that could go wrong, there's a reason we sell high ticket. So I'll give you a little equation here. If you sell $1,030 items, that's $30,000 in revenue, right? Or if you sell 10 $3,000 items, that's $30,000 in revenue. Which one do you think has more or less employees, or more or less damages and returns, or more overhead? Like, high ticket is the way to go, because 10 orders you can do by yourself. You don't need a whole team for this. You can operate this business by yourself. And most businesses at the end of the day come with a 15% profit margin. So your cost to acquire the customer, your marketing, your overhead, things like that, do the math yourself. If you can take 10 orders a month at a $3,000 average order value, that's $4,500 a month in your pocket, roughly. That's going to be a pretty good deal at the end of the day. So there's a reason I enjoy this business model, and certainly I had my own struggles, and I'm happy to dive into some of those if you'd like to. But like, it truly is one of the easiest ways to get started in e-commerce. You can start for literally less than $500 in less than 30 days. And really get a feel for marketing. You're going to have to learn a little bit of code. You're going to have to learn a little bit of Google Ads. You're going to have to learn a little bit of SEO and definitely how to use Shopify. And so you're going to get a lower level marketing degree while hopefully profiting from your business.
And isn't that the way to do it, right? To get paid to learn something, as opposed to like going to school where you have to pay money and then you have to learn and then you have to do the work. Why not get kind of like more of that fair exchange? And it's always great to kind of dig deep into someone's kind of like philosophy, right? Their Bible, so to speak. And yours is to do this high ticket thing. That way you don't have a lot of the stress that you normally would conjure up in your mind. And so something that you mentioned there was kind of cool, was something I was thinking about even just this morning, was it's easy for your emotions to get attached to the money, right? You say, oh man, $3,000 came in and then $300 went out, and it kind of messes with your brain. But if you then look at your numbers and look at like the averages, and kind of like you said in there about industry standard is 15% profit after acquiring a customer. So if you say, well, I'm stressed out about all this money coming in, all this money going out. Well, if you look at your actual numbers and look at the averages and look at your own averages and the industry averages, and if you're kind of on the right track, then it's not a reason to stress out. And there's more important things to get stressed out with. And so yeah, can you tell us like what prevents someone from jumping in on this? You said that high ticket is the way to go, and then do this 30-day thing, so that way you can get your lower level marketing degree, figure things out, get your first sales. But what do you see as far as like the difficulties, obstacles, roadblocks that prevents so many people from doing this?
Yeah, often some of the mistakes that we see from our students or prospective students is they'll focus on product rather than person. So numbers on a screen tend to be numbers on a screen to us marketers, but in reality, that's a person behind the screen, either holding their phone or raising their hand behind their computer saying, I'm interested in this product. And so I would encourage you, when you're thinking about this, first, carry a notebook around, do the touch point test. Just open a note on your phone, and everything you see over $2,000 during the day, just start marking it down. You'll start opening your eyes to some ideas that are a little out of the box. If you really can't think of anything, go to Wayfair and just look in their drop-down menus. Those are all products you could dropship if that's what you wanted to do. But I'd encourage you to go past the products and think about the human behind there. And is there a human you can serve that you have a relation to, right? So the biggest company I was part of, we did 1 million in revenue in the first year, and we scaled it to 11 million in revenue 2 years later. This was a golf company. I'm a golfer. I love golf. I know the language of golf. I know people's pain points. I know that anybody will pay anything to get one extra stroke in the golf universe. I am that person, right? And so it was very easy for me to connect with that customer, to write blog posts that spoke to that person, to know where in the industry we could go build relationships, because people actually use these things. And so I would encourage you to focus on the human behind there. What do they buy, and then what else do they buy, right? So you don't just single in on one single product. And then how can you speak to that person? Don't go. Personally, I wouldn't recommend selling to older people who are less tech savvy. It's not very fun. I'm going to be honest with you. And so, if that's not who you want to speak to every day for the next year, don't focus on that person, but definitely start thinking through the human behind the screen rather than just the product you want to sell.
I love it. Another kind of like marketing fundamental that's really easy to forget. Focus on the person using the product and not on the product itself. Because, and I can imagine if you're trying to run those ads or find those products or make those blog posts, if you're too product centric, there's nowhere to go, right? Oh, let me just talk more about these golf clubs. But if you think about the person who, like you said, is trying to shave down their score just a little bit, then it opens up of like all these other like accessories, doodads, fears, frustrations, and even like, you know, lists and tips and fun articles and all these things that you could create. And then it kind of gets more outside the box. And I imagine that for you, but also for your students, when you focus on the person, I imagine it's more encouraging, right? Because when you see how someone uses it, and when you see how if they buy this, they buy that, or it kind of, I'm sure it kind of makes you think more like strategically and more high level, and it's just more encouraging because you're not just filling up the numbers on the spreadsheet. You're actually like, so someone's been looking for months on how to improve their golf game, right? They've been searching for years on like this exercise machine, but now you hook them up with this solution of their problem, and then it encourages you to do it more versus just going through the motions.
And you're going to understand their pain points, right? So a reference we often use is infrared saunas. So if you were selling infrared saunas and that's all you sold, how are you helping the person behind the screen? You're just transactional. You're just trying to sell a sauna and make the arbitrage there. There's plenty of people on the internet who do that. That's just not my style, right? I would rather say, who's the human behind there who is buying this sauna? They likely saw some of the research, maybe on Joe Rogan or from Dr. Rhonda Patrick or Andrew Huberman or any of these doctors that are prominent nowadays talking about heat shock proteins and the benefits of sauna and lowering the risk of all sorts of cardiovascular issues. Those people are on a journey. They're not just stopping at a sauna. They're probably looking at cold plunges as well as something they want to jump into after they get out of the sauna. Or maybe they're looking at float tanks, or maybe they're on this complete wellness journey that you can outline that whole path for them. I would encourage you, again, to think about what the person is going through behind the screen, and you're going to be able to, like you said, write a lot of content or write listicles or serve them in a way that is more than just selling them a product.
And have you ever been kind of like carried away in that tidal way, like you mentioned earlier about this kind of exercise of, you know, write down anything you see above $2,000 and just kind of make a list and get kind of immersed in it. And I imagine that in your e-commerce travels, you've maybe started with this one product, like the infrared sauna, and that's led to something like the float tank. Has there been like a journey like that for you, where like it started and just it picked you up and carried you away, and next thing you know, you're off in this whole other product line?
Yeah, I would say most people who come to us tend to have the same 20, 30 ideas. I don't know whether that's just built into us to only see the same thing. I'm not sure what it is, but they typically, everyone who comes to us has those same first 20 ideas. And then we really push you, spend a little more time here. Maybe wait a week, see what else you see where else your brain goes. Because the ones that you're thinking of, they're kind of overdone. E-bikes is a good one. E-bikes got really popular, and there's hundreds of e-bike dropshippers out there nowadays. It'd be very hard for you to stand apart. And so I would, to your point, yes, start with what comes to mind right away. Again, Wayfair's dropdowns are a good place to start, but your brain's going to start wandering. And some of the products and industries I've seen people succeed in, I would have never thought of. Like commercial trash cans is one I saw someone succeeding in, and there's no way I would have ever thought of selling commercial trash cans.
And I love that because it's like the whole idea of everyone talks about like deep thinking or, you know, flesh out some idea. But like in any kind of situation, like if you're writing the blog post or making the book or even like a podcast interview like this, there's like the 10 or so bad ideas or like the usual like pleasantries or like just the obviousness that you kind of have to plow through that maybe just works sort of okay, but you plow through all the things that everyone else has already tried and used up and is tired in order to get to that really good stuff. And it's kind of like a magical place, isn't it? Like if you're like outlining some short book and you're like, well, here are the 10 or 20 ideas of things I have to say about drop shipping, but it's exactly like everyone else talks about. But then you get to the good stuff, and then that's where everyone has fun, right? That's where you stand out and you're unique, and that's where those people who are searching for your solution get the answers they haven't gotten from anyone else. You're unique for them too.
And like I said in the beginning, at the end of the day, business is hard, right? Every business has its own complexities. I would encourage you to start thinking about what you love. What are you passionate about? And it could be anything, and go down that rabbit hole. What types of products do people who are interested in these things purchase? And start going down that rabbit hole. And likely you'll stumble onto a group of products or a string of products that make a lot of sense to talk to the human you actually want to talk to every day.
Yeah, I imagine like if you're like a drone enthusiast or you're a motorcycle enthusiast, then that will give you the initial kind of big push to plow through all these frustrations that you otherwise have to deal with, like the learning curve. And I imagine that there also might be like some kind of like initial upfront costs and things to set up. So in these last few minutes, are you able to like give us a quick rundown of like what kind of costs or what kind of initial investments involved here?
100%. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite parts of this business model. So real quick, like if you wanted to start a franchise today, Robert, like if you wanted to open a Subway in your town, that's going to cost you what, hundreds of thousands of dollars likely to get the building and get everything up to the way Subway wants it and buy your license. And it's going to cost you a lot of money to start that. Same with launching your own brand, which I have behind me, right? I sell pet supplements as well. It costs money to do research, branding, all that stuff, right? So the beauty of this model is you can literally get started for $500 or less. We've outlined this in podcasts and YouTube videos, but I'll outline it real quick here, right? Basically, you need a domain, right? Everybody needs a domain, yourstore.com, whatever that is. That's about $12. You will need Shopify in order to run an e-commerce store. That's $29 a month. You could buy a paid theme, or you could start with one of the free ones. I definitely started with a free one in the beginning. A paid theme is $180 to $300 if you want to have a little more professional looking site. Again, you don't need it in the beginning for sure. You will need Google Workspace, which is simply your name at yourstore.com rather than something at Gmail, which just doesn't look professional. You'll also probably want an 800 number so you look professional as well. So Google Workspace was $12. The 800 number, we use Grasshopper. That's $40 a month. You might want a little branding, so I would recommend go to Fiverr. Maybe you'll spend $25 to get a logo made and have someone help you with your colors. And then after that, you simply are going to find brands in your market. You're going to reach out to them and upload the products yourself, and you will run Google ads to acquire your first customers. Google will give you $150 when you spend $150, or they'll give you $500 when you spend $500, which is a much better deal, obviously. And all that totaled up is less than $500. You certainly could spend up to $1,000 if you wanted to go with a paid theme and get higher quality branding, or pay a VA to upload these products for you, or things like that. It's really going to come down to, do you have more time or do you have more money to get this started? But all in all, that's it. That's the whole process. And once you get these brands on board and you start running Google ads, you're going to get traffic. You're going to get relevant traffic. And some of those are going to convert to sales, which will help you roll back into running more ads and hopefully scaling this business.
I love it. You've given us a clear checklist, a clear roadmap. And what I like about the way that you described it is it's easy to listen to the wrong person, right? And the wrong person might leave out some of the items that were on your list, or they might focus too much on the website or the theme or the design. And then you end up paying thousands when you don't need to do that right now. You can get to that later. So that's cool that you gave us that kind of compressed list there of here's the plan, here's what you need to do, here's the bare minimum for now, and that gets you on your way to running the ads and like taking these actions. That way you can get to some profitability, that way you can get to some sales, and that way you have something to work with. It's not just a dream that's in the future. You're actually having your own business that's running, and it's starting small and it's still picking up speed, but it's getting there. And I can imagine that it's easy to get overwhelmed and flooded by all the information out there, all of the blog posts, all the YouTube channels, and all these other things. But we want to send people over to you and your website and your podcast because, well, they found you from this episode. So it would make complete sense for them to say, I really like what Ben had to say, and I really like about how easy he made it, and I want to listen to more of his podcast. So how can someone take the next step? Where do they go to continue on their drop shipping journey?
Yeah, you nailed it. If you're listening to this, you likely like podcasts. So I would just send you to ours, right? It's called Dropship Podcast. You can find it at dropshippodcast.com. We're on YouTube. We're on all of your favorite players. Just look up the Dropship Podcast. We literally give away this business model for free because we think it's honestly the best way to get started. If you would like us to hold your hand, you can take the next step and go to dropshipbreakthru.com, where we actually have a course on this. I don't care which one you do. I'd rather just have you come join us and learn this business model, experience something. So if you enjoyed listening to me, come listen to myself and my Australian business partner, John. And we like to argue once in a while too. So that always makes for good content.
Yeah, everyone loves drama. Everyone loves conflict. If you got along 100% of the time, then that wouldn't be boring. I mean, that's why like every reality show and every game show exists, because the butting heads, it makes it interesting. So you said dropshipbreakthru.com is the place to get that hand holding, and then the Dropship podcast is the place to listen to those fun arguments, because sometimes it takes a while to get your head wrapped around all the things that you need to know, and it's always changing. So a podcast is a good format to get kind of drip fed that content, but also stay up to date with what there is to know. And so as we're really wrapping up here, Ben, you know, these e-commerce guys such as yourself are crazy, insane in a good way. Like you hear about these crazy numbers and these crazy amount of hours put into, and how do you have like a time management secret? Is it a matter of just like carving out the time? Is it a matter of being excited about what you do? How do you get so much done, and how do you manage your time so that the rest of us know how to ride your coattails?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was you're either running towards pleasure or running away from pain, and I was running hard away from pain. So it was very easy at the time to either I was on first shift for a little bit and then went back to second shift, either come home at the end of the day or get up before second shift and put in an hour. If you did an hour a day, like that's probably all you're doing at your day job as well. Like no one's actually working 8 hours. So can you commit to 1 hour a day and then be religious about it and do it every single day? You're going to make mountains move just by doing 1 hour a day. So that's all I did in the beginning was, man, I wanted to get out of my job. I really wanted to get out of debt. And so I put that in hour to every day, and you're going to get ahead.
I love that logic. It's like, well, you don't have to put in that hour, but if you want to keep on being miserable, if you want to keep on busting your tail for not a lot of traction, then you can keep doing what you're doing. Or if you can find, and even like, I don't know about you, Ben, but like my phone pops up once a day saying like, you know, you spent 4 hours looking at your screen. And I'm like, you know, I'm pretty sure I could cut that down to 3 hours, or I'm pretty sure I could watch one less hour of TV, and I could find the 1 hour, like you said, that you're probably only putting that into your day job anyway.
Yeah, I would just encourage you, be consistent. Compounding is a real thing, and take action. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people listen to way too many podcasts, and that's almost, business porn, I guess, right? Like just this idea sounds great. This idea sounds great. Nobody takes action. Go take action and get the ball moving. And I promise that good things will happen if you just take steps every single day.
I love it. Be consistent, take action, and the action to take is go to the Dropship podcast and to go to dropshipbreakthru.com. You'll be glad you did. You're taking the next step towards your new future and your destiny of building this business, of building this brand, building this legacy, getting towards your retirement income and all that comes along with it. So we would love to see you at dropshipbreakthru.com so you can find out what you need to know about dropshipping, e-commerce, and even jump into some of this drama with Ben and John. And the Dropship podcast and dropshipbreakthru.com is the two places to go. So thank you, Ben, for stopping by and packing in. Like, I feel like it was like 4 episodes in one in a small amount of time, but that's how we get it done here. So I appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me on, Robert.